Rolling.
So here's my thoughts on acting. I'm think of myself. I guess I'm kind of have a lot of creative interests, and one of them I've been doing is a little bit of acting, and I think all the creative interests kind of line up because I think people who are creative sometimes have to do more than one thing, and then they have to try to explain to their spouses who are like, I thought you were this, I thought you were, now you're an actor, but that's how it goes. So let me explain something, and this can help people understand, maybe, and other people who aren't acting can understand this, why I've been acting, and I'm getting some parts now. So this might sound silly to some people, but sometimes this is a confession now. Are you ready? So sometimes I'm not gonna seem as cool now when I say this, but sometimes when I hear a certain music, I cry. It gets me very emotional. Or certain movies, I cry, and sometimes I observe people, and actually in an acting class, our acting teacher said, I need you to, he paired us up in partners, and he said, now stare into that person's eyes. And I started crying. So I think that's the reason that I was like, okay, maybe I should, because I think actors, I think one thing that I think a lot of actors have, and it's other people have talked about this too, is guava, yeah. So one thing that a lot of actors have is empathy. So you might see something in the news or something, and so I think that, and then you can put that into a role. So if something, I can just have a thought sometimes. I think as an actor, it's probably something I'll refine, but I can have a thought sometimes that gets me emotional, and then I have to make sure nobody's looking, because they'd be like, why the hell what's going on with this guy? If I'm in front of other people. So sometimes, so if you're sensitive to what's going on around you and other people suffering, and it's not just about you, but you feel, you can put yourself into someone else's position, and actually that's you. You can feel sense that person's soul, and that experience, and other people's suffering, and you're not just people who may seem very different from you. So if you're like, if you're like a racist, it might be harder for you to be a good actor. But then I guess if you're playing, people who just look like you, I guess you could be. I mean, there probably are some, but generally that's probably why Hollywood's a little bit more liberal too. A lot of people who go into acting are people. They have empathy, so they're not into like the screw you, I got my thing. I'm not trying to put all actors on pedestals, because I've worked in around some people who get real in living in New York and meeting some people. Sometimes people get a big head, and they're better just to watch on TV, and they're the last people. Some people, not all. Some people they're the last people you'd actually, even though people get starstruck, and once you're around some certain people and it's not a big deal. Some people, I'm not saying all people, because they're obviously, like I said, it's a people kind of business. So obviously these are people who have a lot of empathy and want to care about things in the world. But the downside of it is that it's a business where people get a big head, and so sometimes you only want to see these people on TV. Believe me, you don't want to. Some people you can meet in entertainment. You don't want to really be around them, because they're not a lot of fun. So yeah, and also, it's interesting to think about it this way. Sometimes the magic that we're so fascinated with, when people who do things well perform well, it all comes together like in that movie or something. And for some performers, you're not getting anything more if you meet them. It depends on the person, obviously, but sometimes it's really, you know, on the other, where you've been on the other, you know, watching the person on the screen. And so about the business, so obviously I'm not a big movie star with a lot of expertise on the business, but I can say a few things. So first of all, if you, I think it's harder when you're younger, because there are a lot of people who are like trying to do this at the same time. If you try when you're a little bit older, it gets easier, which is strange because, like, my day job, it's that a lot of people don't want to hire me once they figure out that at least for certain job positions, because when they find out how old I am. But so it's been easier for me lately to get some acting jobs, and harder for me to get my so-called day job, or they always want to think about it for a while. And certain acting jobs, they need to find people, and so sometimes. So they need to find somebody, and if you can do it, then you get it. You know, you can get the job as long as and they don't care. They just care if can you act. You know, they don't care about, you know, a list of checklists of things. And can you do the part? So that's and convincing. So I've had things like that happen. So I have to say that, you know, some acting things are harder than others, but you need to find an energy. So you need to find what does this character want, and how can you put yourself in that person's position to feel the same thing. And, you know, good acting is not about, I mean, you may sometimes try to push yourself, and it might be artificial at first, to get that thing going, to turn on the engine. But it has to be something inside you that's happening. And once that's happening, it's just something that's really inside you, then everything else will just do the work. If you're pretending and you're like doing something like, wow, and it's because, you know, it seems logical as far as like the story, and you're still watching yourself, and you're watching yourself act. It's like making love, right? If you watch yourself making love, you're not really turned into it. You know, you have to be in the moment. So that's, you know, that's how acting is. It's, I think, good acting. And also give a shit. So even if you have like a really small part. So I've had all kinds of work, and so I've had a few extra jobs. But I will say this: I've been featured in things where, because I gave a shit, you know. So there was one time where I was in something with Claire Danes. I have no idea if you can actually spot me in this and Homeland or not. But what happened was it was just random, you know. It wasn't like they said, "Oh yeah, you're amazing." It wasn't like that. It was more like I was in the right place in the right time. But actually, I wasn't the person. They had somebody else, but he wasn't doing it. He didn't like give a shit. Like, he was just like, I'm an extra. I'm just like, okay, when are we gonna eat? And he wasn't really. They needed somebody in that, you know, with her to kind of do something. So when this is interesting. So, you know, I'm not gonna give this compliment to everybody, but I will say when I was in the scene with Claire Danes, she's really serious about her work. So there was this energy, and she was really upset. There was a scene where she was really upset, and so I reacted. You know, I picked up on that. So I reacted to her distress. So, I mean, in some ways, she's such a good actress, she made it easy. But the reason that they kept me there and didn't have this other guy was that I actually, you know, gave a shit, and they needed an extra that gives a shit, that even if you're not really being paid a lot as an extra, you know, it's still a chance to practice. So even the smallest part, And you never know then, you know, like sometimes you could be, oh, it's just some small part, who cares? But it's a chance for you. Don't worry about your status. Worry about, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I'm gonna make this as good as possible. This is my chance to work on my craft and do it. I'm gonna make it, they may not even see me on camera, but I'm going to make this as real as possible. So that's the thing. Give a shit.